Am I live? Let me see. Uh-oh, what did I do? There we go. Okay. I'm new at this. I'm going to change the lighting around and shut this one off and see if that works better. Yeah, I think that's better from the light coming that way. Okay. So it's been a long time. Let me get this right. Okay. It's been a long time since I've done a video. And there's been a lot going on in my life. I thought we'd catch up. And I was going to share a little bit about my testimony with you because I don't think I've ever really shared my testimony. And so that's it'll help you if I give you some background. It'll help you understand maybe why I've been missing in action for a little bit. So I'm 52, and I was living with my adult son, who was 28. And he was really abusive to me. And when I say abusive, I mean in times past, he was definitely physically abusive. He's strangled me and like had me against the wall. He's actually picked me up and thrown me across the room. Um, but the last few years, he wasn't really physical abuse, but he did break my things, and he called me names like all day, every day. And they say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But honestly, when you hear put downs all day, every day, um, no matter how positive of a person you are, it really does weigh down on you. And it really just weighed down on my self-esteem. And I was a single mother of four. And the reason I was a single mother is because my husband was arrested and went to jail. And the kids were 6, 3, 1, and 6 weeks old when he went to jail. And my parents were drug addicts, and they had a one-bedroom apartment, and they were struggling financially. So it's not like I had like parents that I could go home to. And I didn't really want to leave my kids with them because of the drugs. I had to for a little while on the weekends because I worked two jobs. And I had no choice. I think that they were safe, but I was always worried, because even though I know they loved my kids, they did do drugs, and I had people coming to tell me, like neighbors of theirs, that they would stop in or something, and they were like, listen, your parents are like just completely out of it, and the kids are outside playing, and no one's watching them. And so after I heard things like that, I stopped leaving them there, especially as they were getting older and getting out of the house by themselves. And my 3-year-old son, he was the one that was 28 recently that was abusive to me. Um, he had it the hardest because my oldest daughter was already in school, and so she was used to being away from me every day. She was in second grade, and my the babies were only 1 and 6 weeks old, and so they went right to daycare, and wasn't that much of an adjustment to them. They just that they just grew up in daycare, so they weren't like, I don't think they felt abandoned by me or taken from me. But my 3-year-old was very close to me, very attached to me. It was with me every day, all day. And he lost his mom and his dad at the same time because his dad was in jail. Not that he was home much, but um, now he wasn't there at all. And I was with him 24/7, and now I was not there. And I was working two jobs, so it was a big change for a 3-year-old. And my husband was in jail for 3 years. And those 3 years were really, really hard. I had no money, no education. I didn't have a job. I got a part time job right before he got arrested. My plan was because I was planning to leave him because he was abusive. He was just like my son is today, but worse actually. Um, and I got a part time job when the baby was 6 weeks old, and I thought to myself, I'll just work part time. I'll save some money, and then eventually, in 6 months or something, maybe I'll be able to leave him when I have like a down payment for an apartment. I can work more. But right as I got my first that part time job, he was arrested. And he was actually on the front page of the newspaper my first day at work. And everybody was talking. They didn't know he was my husband. Martin is a pretty common last name, so I don't think they knew at first, but they did later because it said in the article that he had 4 kids. And they knew I had 4 kids, and they knew I lived in the same place that he lived in. So they put two and two together. So it was really embarrassing. They were very kind, though. I loved working there. I just delivered car parts, honestly. Um, I really enjoyed that job while I had it, though. I was there for 5 years. I needed to make more money, and um, I thought leaving there was the right thing at the time. Looking back, I should have just stayed. Um, I didn't really make that much more money. If I stayed, I would have continued to get raises and benefits and everything. But I left because everyone was like, "Oh, you got to get a better job," and so forth. And I had a little more money, but then it didn't work out. And then I changed jobs a few times, and there's some other things that were going on. So honestly, it would have been better if I would just stayed. But anyway, um, 3 years I was working 2 jobs, and I had to move. We were getting evicted, and um, I didn't have enough money to move, but I found a way. I had to move to Philadelphia because it was cheaper in the city, and I didn't even make enough for the bills. But I just, back then in the 90s, you could just talk to a landlord and tell him your situation, and he would work with you. And um, today it's a little worse. Everybody wants background checks, and everybody has like a third party. Like you're not really talking to the landlords anymore. Like, and it's they don't even see you face to face, so they don't really pick you even if you're a nice person. But back then it was a lot easier to find a place because the landlord would meet me, and they would like me, and they would want to help me out, and they believed in me. And I did pretty good, meaning I stayed at the first house for 5 years, and I stayed there till he wanted to sell the house. I wasn't able to buy it. So I wasn't even like evicted or anything. So I wound up being able to pay him. Sometimes I was late, but I did make it. But I did have to get a second job on the weekends, waitressing. And looking back, though, I think I should have not worked on Sundays. I should have just trusted the Lord and continued to take my children to church. But in my mind, I was thinking, I have to do everything I can. I can't just be sitting home, not working when I can't pay the bills. So the kids were in daycare during the day, during the week. But when I went to the um, diner on the weekends, I left them with my parents. And, looking back, I wish I hadn't done that. But at the time, it's what I thought was the right thing to do. And of course, I wasn't taking them to church then. I was working, but I was thinking, they're real little, and it's temporary. And I wasn't sure I was leaving my husband at that time. I was pretty sure I was going to stay with him then. Um, so I thought, okay, I'll just get through these 3 years, and then when he's home, it'll be better. And this was the third time that he was in jail. And every time he went to jail, he would be really religious, really spiritual, and be writing me Bible scriptures. And I thought, wow, he's changed. He's gonna be the best husband. But every time when he came home, he didn't even do it one day. Like he wouldn't even go to church or read his Bible at all. Like not even one day from the day he got home, no matter how much he did in jail. And so I fell for it twice, and I was even starting to fall for it the third time. But then I had found out that he cheated on me, and not just cheated, but um, he would go down to the city and he would like pick up hookers, like dirty hookers off the street. And I, was a good wife. I'm not going to, go into detail. You read between the lines there, but um, there wasn't a reason for him to go anywhere else. Um, but before he went to jail, I had caught him with a woman, but I didn't know that he had actually slept with her before he got arrested. I caught him, but I thought that maybe it hadn't progressed to that point yet. Um, I had he was supposedly he rented a garage at night and he was doing auto body work, is what he told me, and he was really dealing drugs. And this girl would be down there sometimes, but the one time I called, this is before cell phones, I called and I heard a woman's voice in the background. But when he hung up, he didn't hang it all the way up. And so I could hear them in the back. But I knew if I hung up my line, so we're going back to landlines now. And if you're watching and you're not my age, you don't realize like how the landlines worked. But if I would have hung up, then his phone would have went beep 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 beep, and he would have known that he didn't hang up. And maybe he would have thought, oh, maybe she heard something. Well, because she didn't hang up till now. So I didn't want him to know that I heard him and this girl because I wanted to go down and catch him. Now, remember, at this time, I was pregnant with my fourth child and I had three small children. And so what I did was I left my phone off the hook so that it wouldn't go beep, beep, beep on his end. And I quick got all the kids in the car. I just threw them in the car. And I drove down and I saw him there with this girl, and he had his wedding ring off. And they were just sitting there drinking and talking. Their clothes were on and everything. It was in the garage. And so he walked up to me, and here I have his three children, and I'm pregnant. And he walks up to me and he just pours his beer on my head, just real slowly, just walked up real disrespectful, just poured his beer on my head. And then he left with her. And so I was all angry and I followed him. And so we're like chasing around and I'm following him. And then eventually he pulled up at our apartment and I got out and I confronted the girl. She didn't even look up at me. But after that, he was going to leave me, even though I was pregnant with our fourth child. And, obviously I wouldn't have anywhere to go, or I couldn't get a job when I was 8 months pregnant. But then, right after that, he got arrested. And I had gotten the part time job and I had had the baby. And um, I'm not sure if I'm remembering the timeline exactly here, but the baby was born. I guess he didn't leave, but the baby was 6 weeks old when he got arrested. So I guess he wasn't arrested quite yet, but as the weeks went on, things got worse between us, and he was really abusive to me. Um, I made him breakfast every morning. He just threw it at me sometimes, and he would yell at me that I woke him up wrong, and everything was my fault. And I would be like, "We don't have milk." the kids need milk. And he would leave saying, okay, well, I'm going to go get milk. And basically, he wouldn't come home till the next morning, and then he'd miss work. And um, sometimes he would actually get the milk and leave it at the doorstep and not come home. Um, and, he was just out dealing drugs. And then I found I was going to stay with him because once he got arrested, I guess he wanted me there for him. But I found out, though, that he was sleeping with that girl. And I found out about the hookers that he was with in the city. And I was just like, I'm home taking care of your children, and I'm a good wife to you. And you're just, you don't even care that they need milk, and you're spending money on whores and drugs. And I just couldn't get past that. Um, and, there's a lot more to the story. But anyway, I I didn't tell him. I didn't decide I was going to leave him right away. I think it was about an hour, a year and a half in, and that's when I found out everything. And even though he was all like saying he was serving God and into the Bible, I knew from past experiences that he probably wouldn't once he got home. But I did give him a chance. What I did was I said, when you come home, we're going to live separate. And if you actually do it this time, if you go to church while we're living separate on your own, you go to church, you're serving God, you're reading the Bible, you're going to work, you're coming over and being a father to the kids. We'll see how it goes. But the same thing happened. He didn't. Not even one day did he go to church or continue. I mean, he would come over and visit, but it was all about trying to get with me. And when I wouldn't be with him, because I wanted to see him be a husband and a father without being with me first, but he wouldn't. Um, so then I realized, though, I thought that there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I thought that it was temporary, and then he was going to come home and it was going to be fine. But at that moment, when I decided to leave him, I realized, okay, so it's all on me now, like forever. And how am I going to do this? And I didn't have parents to rely on. They did babysit for me when they weren't even reliable. I mean, I had to use them. I did try to hire babysitters. None of them seemed to work out. Um, but my parents weren't even reliable either. There were times where they just said, no, we're not watching them tonight. And it would be like an hour before I had to go to work. And you can't call out like an hour before. Like, I can't just, you're not a good employee if you're a waitress and you're like an hour before, I can't come. I don't have a babysitter. Like, you need to find cover and you need to tell them in advance if you're going to miss it. So they made me look like a bad employee. And, then I found out, though, that my parents were kind of neglecting my one son, the one that was living with me that was abusive to me. So they would take care of him, meaning they fed him and everything, but they would really give a lot of love and hugs and kisses to the other children, but not him. And he never really felt quite accepted. And I didn't know that was going on because he was 3 when my husband got arrested, and I had to start leaving them there. So by the time he was 6 is when he was starting to tell me um, his experience at my parents' house. And I was heartbroken for my son that he went through that, and I didn't know. And I felt so much guilt because I thought that I left him in a safe place, fairly safe. I knew my parents did drugs. They mostly did pills, but they would, mostly be okay. Like they wouldn't really be out of it or not taking care of them. um, they didn't make them like angry or anything like that. Like I felt like they were fairly safe, and I didn't have anyone else. And then when I realized they weren't safe, they were just going outside and no one was watching them. And on top of it, they were neglecting my son, and he was feeling, neglected. And so that's when I was like, okay, I have to find some kind of different like work, different situation. And I'm proud of myself because I did it. 25 years. I made sure there was a roof over their heads. I took care of them. I found a way. And I wasn't on Section 8 or anything. I did get food stamps, but I didn't get any kind of housing or financial assistance. I just worked, and I worked two jobs. And I thought, you know, when my kids got older, they would appreciate what I did. I mean, I had no life. I just worked. They were my life and work, and I was exhausted. And a lot of the time when I came home from work, I didn't really discipline. There was always a problem with my one son. He was always an issue. But, I didn't want to be disciplining him when I had such little time with them. So, um, I probably, didn't discipline him as much as I should have because, I didn't want my time with him to be me yelling at him all the time. I was trying to just have a good family time, the little time I had. And so those years were really hard. I had like no life. Just I was just working. And I thought, okay, I'm never even gonna find another like husband or something. How can I? All I do is work. Um, and then I remember when my son really started having issues. Um, he was maybe from 9 years old on. I started having a lot more issues, but 11 years old, as he got older, stronger, he was trying. He was almost bigger than me. Um, he didn't listen as much, and it was harder to control him. And I remember like just collapsing and begging God, like, please help me. Like, I want to be home with my kids. I want to give my kids need my time. They don't even know who I am. You know, they just go from sitter to sitter. All I do is pick them up and take them to another sitter, and they don't even know me. I felt like they don't even know me, and I wasn't teaching them all the things I wanted to teach them, like about who God is, and I didn't. They couldn't even see me handling situations because I wasn't there. I was at work, and they were with babysitters, and I really wanted that to change. Um, and Today, they, not all of them, but a couple of my kids, they just think that I didn't do enough for them, that I could have done better, that I could have done something else. Um, they say to me like, why didn't I go to school? I tried 8 different times to go back to school. I won't go into all those stories, but I did try. But it was hard working and having 4 kids by myself and trying to go to school. I was a very good student, but just it's hard to just do everything. And I had a lot of people criticize me. Everyone was like telling me how they feel like I should handle different things. And I tried everything. And I did take the kids to therapy. I took them to karate. I took them into sports. I did take them to church when I was able to stop working at the diner. I got the big brothers and big sisters to spend time with them. I did everything I could think of to make sure that they were getting everything that they needed spiritually, mentally, I always had a roof over their head. They always had clothes and toys and stuff, but they just didn't have me all the time. And so I tried to find other people that would be good for them because I couldn't be there. Um, but I remember like crying because I just really wanted to be, I always wanted to be a stay at home mom and bake bread and, homeschool. And I homeschooled my oldest daughter when she was young. And she knew how to read at a first grade level when she was like in preschool. She was really smart because I was there teaching her all the time. And I just wanted to do that with all of them, but I didn't. And that I was so angry that my husband had taken that from me, that I could, if he was a husband and a father, I would have been able to do that and be a mother to my kids. But now I was working and they were having problems because I wasn't home. But I did become a massage therapist, and that gave me some more money. And I was working less hours, and I was home, so I wasn't working the weekends, and I was making more and working less. And so things started to change a little bit. Um, and then, as they became teenagers, I think that we had, we, I think it was a pretty good life. We always had a nice house in a nice neighborhood. They always went to a good school. Um, I took them to church unless I was working Sundays. I got a job at a hospital after that, and I had to work some weekends, and still we didn't go to church as much as I wanted. But you know, at that point, I was doing even better. I had a really good job at the hospital, but then I was offered an even better position at the hospital, but it was a night position. It was $4 more an hour, and really good benefits and full time. And I was waiting for a position to open up, but it was full time in the evening. And so I said to my ex husband at this point, I left him years before, and I said, "Listen, you work for yourself. You just do auto." But he rented a garage where he was doing auto body, and he made his own hours. And I said, "Listen, I'm going to be working 5 evenings a week. 4 of those are during the week. So they're going to be home alone. They're going to be teenagers home alone at night until 11 o'clock. I work 3 to 11. So they're going to just do whatever they want. So I need you to just like stop in and check on them as much as you can so that they, are caught if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing." He didn't even stop over one time, not even one time. The boys wound up getting jobs, and they wanted me to drive them, but I couldn't because of my work schedule. And so they were riding their bikes, but there were times where it was raining. They asked their dad if he could drive them to work, and he wouldn't. And he just was no help at all. And he also was inconsistent. There were times where he was not even in their life at all. Like 6 months, 2 years would go by. No, we wouldn't hear from him. Then all of a sudden he'd show up again. I got very little child support, like 200 a month. That was it. And so it was just me doing this myself. And but things got better and better, but it was still hard. But I always had problems with the one son, especially. And then my youngest daughter got pregnant at 15, and then she got pregnant again at 16. And my ex-husband was blaming me for not parenting right. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I asked you to please stop by in the evenings and check on them because I couldn't be there, and you didn't come one time. And you were never a father. So you're going to blame me. Now, today, the children that aren't talking to me um, talk to their dad. And he still doesn't have a house, he still just rents a room. He's been in jail like 3 more times since. Um, he never had his own place. He never took them for a weekend or overnight anywhere because he never had his own house. He would just visit at my house different times. Um, but they put me down. I'm the one who took care of them. I made all the sacrifices, but they put me down because I wasn't good enough. But they, Father's Day, birthday, they do things for him and not me. So I want them to have a relationship with their dad. I don't judge, I don't begrudge that. But I don't understand how they could not see how much I sacrificed for them and how hard it was for me. And um, then my daughter wasn't taking care of her children, and I had to take care of them. And they were just like two more children of mine because she wasn't taking care of them. And that is a whole nother long story that maybe I'll tell you another time. It's pretty long and horrible. But she just refused. And I did everything I could to get her to be a mom. And again, tried to get therapy for her. I had people come out to the house to try to help. I did everything I could, and she wouldn't. So then once she was 18, I was like, well, I can't force her to go to therapy or do anything anymore. I'm just going to take care of the kids. I've been taking care of them at that point for like 2, 3 years. I'm not going to fight with her every day anymore. So I stopped fighting with her, but um, I just took care of the kids, and they were like my children. I was the only caretaker they ever had. She didn't get up in the middle of the night with them, bathe. That there was no routine. I had to beg her just to let me get a shower, especially like during um, the year 2020, and daycares were closed, and I didn't have any break, and they were like 2 and 3 at the time. I would just beg her to just let me get a shower by myself. I was like, please watch him for 1 hour so I could get a shower by myself. And she wouldn't even watch them. Or if she did, like, she would be complaining and then texting me, are you done? Are you done? Like, I need to go. Um, so I then just fell into a routine as if they were my kids. I was like, I'm not arguing with her anymore. I'm just going to take care of her. But we had a really big house. We all lived there except for my oldest daughter, who was with her boyfriend, now husband at the time. But my 3 kids and my 2 grandsons were with me. So I had a great big house. And there was one of me and 5 of them now. And we rented some rooms to some of their friends. And it was a beautiful, beautiful historic home. And it would have been a really good life if everybody worked and pitched in and we just kept this beautiful house and 2 acres of land, and we would have had a small little farm. I tried to plant, you know, a food forest, and I was studying permaculture, and we made money by renting rooms, and some of them were working and paying some rent, and I was working too, and then I got hurt, and then the year 2020 happened. So for the year I was on disability, and then 2020, there was a couple years where I wasn't working. I was on disability, and then I was just renting rooms for the money. Well, everyone started complaining that like I wasn't working and they were working, and they would say things to me like, "Well, I don't want to have to pay your bills or take care of you." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Nobody's taking care of me. I've been taking care of you for 25 years, and I'm home now with the grandkids, and I got hurt, and I'm renting rooms. Like, this is my income. Like, I'm like a landlord, and I had permission to sublet, so I was like a landlord. Um, and I took care. I fed them all. I took care of the house, but they, different reasons, they moved out, and then my daughter moved out and took the kids. Now, she had never been a mother to them, but she met somebody much older than her with 2 boys, And at first I thought, well, maybe it'll be good for her to be with an older guy and settle down. But no, this one he's very controlling. Previous to this guy, she was with someone who was beating her up, and she'd come home black and blue, and that was the thing she would fight me over. And she got in the habit of hating me. We used to be like really close, really best friends. She got in the habit of hating me because she thought I was trying to like take her away from this boy that she loved, which I was because he was hurting her. She wasn't 18 yet, and she was coming home black and blue. And yes, I was forbidding her to go. I couldn't just let my child go be with someone who I know was beating her up, giving her drugs, and so she was always sneaking out. When she just started to like hate me, thinking I was trying to keep her from being happy when all I wanted for her was happiness. Um, she just never got that. Her mindset never changed. I thought, well, she would see when once they broke up, she would see that I was just trying to protect her. She'll grow up. She's gonna grow up and she'll realize this. But she still to this day, has this attitude that I am against her or something. Um, but then she was with this older guy, and instead of it being a positive influence, he was very controlling, wanted to control everything. And so he took her and the kids out, and she wasn't letting me see the kids. And she had never taken care of them before. And I want her to be a mom and I want her to take care of them. But at this point, I had taken care of them and been their mother for 5 years. And they didn't know anyone else but me as mom. And now they have no contact with me at all. So I went to court to make sure that she couldn't keep them from me. So I wasn't trying to take them from her. If she wanted to be a mom now, great. But I didn't want her to be able to keep them from me because at this point I was their mother and we had that bond. And I'm glad I did. I don't regret it. I have them 3 weekends a month and I don't regret 1 minute. Um, so two of my kids don't talk to me, and then the one son was very abusive to me. So it wound up after 2020, the economy got bad, and my landlord had to sell that house, and I couldn't buy it. So I had to move. And I thought, oh my gosh, like it was the perfect situation. I was renting rooms for my income, and it was a beautiful, beautiful house, beautiful land. I was planting apple trees and berry bushes, and I had a huge garden, and I was going to get chickens. And, you know, I just thought this is perfect. And then all of a sudden, that was just taken away. I had to move. So everyone went their own ways, and I had to have a bedroom. So I wouldn't lose them. And so I had to get a job, because I was renting rooms for my income. I didn't have a job outside of that. So I hurried and found a job, and I found another house, but me and my decided together. At the time, he lost his license, and he didn't have a way to get to work. He was going to lose his license for 6 months, and he asked me if I could take him to work every day. And so it was supposed to be like a mutual. Okay, I'll work every day, but we're going to split the bills. I can afford a place on my own with another bedroom. Like I could have maybe gotten a small place, but I had to have a bedroom for the boys. So we had to have a 3-bedroom house with um, my son, me, and my grandsons. So we moved in together, and at this point, though, instead of it being like my house where he was just living there, kind of giving me something toward the rent, he was on the lease, and he started to feel like, well, it's his house. And then he was like, well, the boys aren't getting a bedroom. We're renting that room out. And I'm like, the boys have to have a bedroom. Like, that's why we moved to a 3-bedroom house. And it was just one fight after the other. But then it got worse and worse and worse. Before that, he would have cycles. He's bipolar, so he would have cycles. And there would be a normal cycle, and he would be like my best friend, and we would laugh and we would have fun together when he was normal. And then there was depression cycle, and it was always like, he was crying and I was always sitting with him trying to talk through, and I was always there, through the whole thing. It was very difficult because I had my one daughter who was very rebellious, sneaking in and out of the house, coming home black and blue, and I had my grandsons who were toddlers, and um, him that, he's bipolar and he's an adult. Sometimes he wasn't paying rent, and everybody was mad that they're paying rent and he's not. And then he's going through these depression cycles, and I'm sitting with him. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I had a lot on my plate. I have one son who is wonderful. He is just the best son, and we really never had we had a problem once, small period of time. We had an issue, but other than that, um, we always got along great. We still do. He goes to church with me. He's just a wonderful son. My oldest daughter, for some reason, was my best friend through everything with me. And when my daughter was having problems, like, we even tried to have intervention for her, me, my oldest daughter, and some of her best friends. And like, she was always still involved with the family, and we were always very close. That all of a sudden, she just decided that we weren't close. And I'm a conservative, and she was in college and she started to lean left. And so, of course, that was a big issue. That between us, there was a big attitude there. And so she stopped talking to me. And then my daughter stopped when she was with this older guy, and took the kids. And then she says, she's mad that I took her to court, but I was like, well, you weren't letting me see them. And I wasn't trying to take them from you. I just wanted to keep you, like, I wanted to make sure you couldn't keep them from me. And so now we get along. I think we came to a place where we talk still. She's still with this controlling boyfriend, and so she doesn't come over for holidays or anything, and she has to pretend in front of him that she doesn't talk to me or like me. But when he's not around, we talk like mother and daughter. And now it's not an issue with the boys. Like, everything is fine, and I think she likes the fact that she has the weekends free, and I have that time with them. And it's working out fine now. And so there's not really an issue between us, but we're not like having, certain mother daughter relation. Like, she doesn't come over for holidays and stuff because she has to pretend for her boyfriend that she hates me, even though it's clear that she doesn't anymore. And we talk when he's not around. But anyway, and my other son is, like I said, we never had a problem. And he goes to church with me, and I see him often, and he's a good boy. But I was living with my other son, and he was just I remember what I was saying now. He always had these cycles. So he would have the manic cycle where he would be really bad, but it usually was like 2 weeks, and then he would be normal again, and we would have a good time. And sometimes the normal stage lasted months, and then he would have another, like, depression stage or manic stage, but they were typically shorter, and the normal stage was longer. But ever since we lost that big house and we moved in together, and it was just me and him, which I thought he would really like, because he always liked being the center of attention. If I gave more attention to his siblings, he always had more attention than anyone from me, especially because I felt guilty that my parents favored the others. So I would kind of favor him, and I wanted to make him feel special because, of what he went through with my parents. I was trying to make up for it. So he always had a lot of attention from me, way more than the other kids. But if I did spend time with the other kids, he would get jealous and he would be resentful. So even as an adult, that went on. And so I thought, well, it's just going to be me and him. He's going to really like having my time. And I thought, this might be fun. He's an adult now, and I'm an adult. And, I didn't have the kids full time. They were just coming over on the weekends, and he was a great uncle. He loved hanging out with the boys and playing with them. And I thought, this might be really nice, just ha- cooking together and having dinner together. And we would have his brother over. And that's not the way it went. He just really wanted to just punish me constantly and blame me for everything. He really wanted to turn everybody against me. And that's kind of been a theme in my life. And I wanted to actually go to therapy because of this, because my parents, and I won't go into this very much, but my parents kind of did that. I was kind of the scapegoat in the family. But because I was the one who didn't do drugs, my sister and my parents both did drugs. And I was going to church, and I was trying to be good and encourage them to be good. And they kind of hated the fact that I was good. In fact, they used to call me goody goody two shoes, even as adults. I mean, they would call me goody goody two shoes, and I wasn't the kind of person who was like looking down at them or putting them down. I did try to help them, but it wasn't coming from like a heart of I thought I was better or anything. I just really wanted better for them. I wanted them to be healthy, um, but they resented me, and so they were putting me down. Um, and they would make me look bad in front of other people because they were so ashamed that they were doing terrible and I wasn't. I was doing good, and I was raising 4 kids by myself, and I wasn't doing drugs. I was going to church, and I was more successful than them, even though I was in the situation I was in with, a single mother raising 4 kids, and I was in a better position. So they were like jealous and would love to make, if there was anything that I did do that was either a mistake or if I did some need help or something, it was always this like time where they could like gloat. But they didn't. They would use. They would want to go to my grandmother for money, and my the excuse was that it wasn't because they were drug addicts, it was because they had to help me so much. And they weren't helping me. It was a lie. I was helping them. But in order for them to get money from their family, sorry, I'm just going to brush my hair. I keep looking at it in here and I just want to fix it. Um, so they would make my family believe that I was taking advantage of them and I was so needy because I had 4 kids. And they would make it look like I was irresponsible and wasn't doing the right thing so that their family would, my grandmother and uncles and stuff, would give them money that they spent on drugs. So they would make me look bad. And my sister, didn't want the family to just look down at her. So she would paint picture of me that wasn't true. It was lies. But she didn't want to be the only person that was like doing bad and being looked down upon. So I was kind of like the scapegoat of the family, even though I was the one that was doing good. But I loved them so much. I just wanted them to. I just wanted this to be a family so much. And then when we couldn't be a family, um, I thought, well, okay, at least I have my children. And I don't have a sister to cook with or a mother to cook with, but I could, I'm Italian. I really love to cook with, I grew up cooking with my aunt, my grandmother, and I wanted that for my girls. But I didn't have a mother and a sister that would come over and cook with me because if I did invite them for a holiday, they were like falling asleep in their food. It was just terrible because of the drugs. So, um, but I thought I could create that with my daughters. And for a while, it was that way. It was so great we always cooked together. We had our Italian traditions, and they would bring their girlfriends over. And so it was always a bunch of us cooking, and their friends always liked coming over. And the boys would also cook with us, and um, they would invite their friends, and it was always just a house full of people. And holidays, especially, so many people, and um, I always cooked for like 25 people, on holidays. The house was full because I had the four kids, and all their friends would come over and be a part of it. And so even though I was working a lot, it was still really happy. We had a home, and I did have time with them. And we had these traditions, and it was just some difficulty with Jean. But then, um, when my daughter had the boys, it was even more difficult and more stressful. But then we did come to a place again where it was finally happy again, where we just I was taking care of the boys like their mother. My daughter wasn't, but we did fall into like a way of life. And there again, her friends would come cook with me, even her friends' parents. Then I was now friends with some of her friends' parents and family. And my oldest daughter, her husband's family was my family, and they would come over for holidays. And his mom and his dad and his cousins and stuff, even and brothers, and his brother's girlfriend. And it was like I had this huge life and family, and I was happy. I was happy. Um, but then, when my daughter took the boys, it took a different turn. And then my oldest daughter stopped talking to me because, I don't even know why. She won't tell me. And when I do ask her, like, she says things that don't make sense. But I won't go into all that. But, um, you know, now holidays are just with me and my one son. And I have my grandsons, around the holidays, and have time with them. But I was living with my oldest son, and it was awful. I thought it would be fun and it would be good, but it turned out to just be awful. And it was like that one manic cycle never ended. So for 3, almost 4 years, it was just manic cycle. That's it. I mean, he just not only called me names and broke my things, but loved to make me look terrible in front of other people. He wanted his friends to hate me. He wanted his girlfriends to hate me. He would fight with his girlfriends because they didn't hate me. Um, all day long, he would text me the most horrible things. I mean, think of the worst things that you could say to somebody, like not just names, like the worst names, but even just things like, well, this is why you're not with a man, or this is why, your kids don't talk to you, and things that are very hurtful that, weren't my fault, that he would try to twist to make it be my fault. And I'm not the kind of person that says, I'm not going to take responsibility if I do something wrong. And there were even friends of mine who, for a long time, were like, they would come over and they would see what was going on every day in my home, and they knew that I was doing my best, and they would praise me, and they would say, "I can't believe how ungrateful your children are, and how much they don't see." How much you have done, how much you do for them, and how much you love them. And they're just disrespectful. And then even they would turn and be like, well, if they all say this, then maybe it's you. But I'm like, but you were in my home every day telling me it wasn't me. I was going to therapy and taking them to therapy, and I was getting positive reinforcement that I was doing everything right. So I'm not saying like, oh, well, I don't do anything wrong. It's not like I have that kind of attitude, but I really don't believe that I did anything wrong. I believe that it was Satan trying to destroy my family. And right now, I now see that there are hundreds of thousands of parents in the same situation right now, especially because of politics. Um, so many Christian parents out there are estranged from their kids, and the political climate and the trans movement and stuff going on in the country is really split families, and I know it's because of Satan. And also, what I want to say is I started to fast and pray and do a lot of warfare prayer. This was back before I lost my house, like in 2020 and 2021. And I noticed as soon as I started to really totally say, I'm going to serve the Lord with everything in me, I'm not going to compromise anymore. Um, I was really, really attacked. And I knew that I would be attacked, but I didn't realize that I would lose everything. I lost my whole family and my house that I loved and my whole life. And then I was in this situation with, I was fighting for my grandkids and I was living with my son and he was abusive. And I felt like I was in jail and trapped. And my life went from so full and having, my house full every holiday. And I was running for office. I ran for school board and I had lots of support and friends that would come meet over at my house often. And, I was involved in politics. I was involved in church and I had a very full life. And I went from that to nothing, where I had nothing. I lost everything. I had one son that visited me on holidays. I was alone. I was fighting for my grandkids, and I finally did get them back, and now I have them 3 weekends a month. Um, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I'm afraid to pray. I mean, I really literally was afraid to pray because I was like, I can't lose any more, and I can't go through that again now that I have something back. And I was struggling with that because I really want to serve the Lord and I want to pray, I mean, and that doesn't mean I don't pray now, but I wasn't doing the warfare prayer that I was doing. However, lately I started again, and I was scared, but I was like, I have to overcome this. And I saw this sermon last night, actually, that really changed everything and put it in perspective for me, and just gave me faith that I've really more faith than I've ever had before. But I see it now as, instead of being afraid, I'm like, no, I'm going to overcome this. I am going to push through this. And no matter what, I'm going to serve God and I'm going to trust Him. And no matter what happens, I'm going to trust God. And I'm going to be able to stand afterwards and say, I overcame. I want to be an overcomer. And I think it was this sentence, the preacher I was listening to, she said, we are all going to have a time where we're going to have a conversation with God the Father. Every one of us. We are going to stand before God, and every one of us is going to have a conversation with God the Father. And we are going to have to answer for our life and what we did with it and what we did with what He gave us to do. Did we fulfill the mission? And I, especially since Charlie Kirk died, I that impacted us all so much. And in the way it impacted me is, I said, I want God to say well done to me. I know that Charlie is hearing well done, my good and faithful servant. I see what he did with his life. And I know I've overcome a lot. And even if my children don't see it, even if the world doesn't see it, I I know God does. I know God does. And my whole family is dead now. My father died, my sister died, my mother died in 2012. My dad died in 2021, and my sister died 5 months later. So, not right after I started praying, I not only lost my kids and my home, my income, my grandkids, I lost my family. They died, and I was alone in the world. And I have I have two uncles, and my grandmother is still alive, and I have a cousin. And I thought after my father died that we would reconnect, and I don't know why they don't want anything to do with me. They're supposedly Christians, and I have gone to them for years. It's been like 15 years, and I have said, you know, can we talk? Why don't you want me in your life? And they won't tell me. They won't tell me, but they don't want to spend holidays with me. And I have a feeling it had to do with things that my father would tell them because he wanted to get money from them. So he would blame things on me to get money from them. But they know who my father is. Like they've seen him. You know, there were many years that they didn't want him around because he was a drug addict, and they saw. So you would think that they would not believe him, or at least talk to me, at least ask me my side. And let me put it this way, I'm not bragging, but everyone who knows me compliments me on my character, and I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that. And so I know that people see me, usually right away. They see me and they know who I am. And for them to not know me, they know me all my life, and for them to just not even reach out ever to see how I'm doing. They're supposedly Christians and they go to church. They must hear things that make them think that what they're doing is wrong. They know they have family members that are struggling. They know that I want a relationship with them. And the Bible says, if somebody has something against you, leave your gift at the altar. Go fix it and come back, right? But so they read the Bible, they go to church, but it's not. They don't want anything to do with me, and I don't know why, but anyway, so I'm alone right now. I'm alone, and I have decided. I have my grandsons on the weekends, and I have a new foundation I started that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. After Charlie Kirk died, I was like, I want to hear "Well done," and I'm not going to sit here and live in fear anymore. I am going to overcome. I'm going to fast. I'm going to pray. I'm going to face whatever comes. I'm going to face it with courage. I am not going to be afraid. I already know what it's like to lose everything. And I am going to just face whatever is going to come. But I am not going to back down. I am going to pray. I am going to fight. I am going to witness. I am going to be involved in ministry. I'm not going to let the devil stop me because I am going to hear, "Well done." When I have that conversation with my father, I want to hear, "Well done." And I want him to be proud of what I did with my life and the things that I know he called me to do and he's given me to do. I don't want to be saying, "Oh, I was afraid, so I buried my talent." I want to say, "This is what I did with it. I know that I did my best. I know I took what you gave me and I did my best to multiply that." And I want him to say, "Well done." So I am going to make videos again, and I am going to witness. I'm going to start street witnessing. I started a foundation. It's called Truth and Freedom Alliance, and I'm going to be talking about that more. But I did all of a sudden have a lot of blessings. There's been a breakthrough. My son moved out a couple months ago, and I have a whole life. And when I tell you, it's I didn't even realize how much of a prison that I was in until he was gone. And there were literally after he left, I was laying in bed and I was tense, clenching my muscles. And then I realized I don't have to clench and be, I was always listening for him to be breaking something or to be yelling or to be every noise. I didn't know if that was him. And I have things that I love. It's not that I'm materialistic, but I have things that it took me a long time to get. my whole life I've been poor. I couldn't just go buy things, so it took me a long time. I used to have furniture I picked out of the trash, and it took me a long time to just get things that I liked to make my home look nice. And so I wasn't embarrassed to have company over, and I could say, this is my home. It's not expensive things. It's stuff I got thrift stores. Much of it was like my grandmother and my mother that died when they died, but things that I love and enjoy looking at and I'm proud of because it took me 25, 30 years to finally get a home with things that I love, and it looks like something I could be proud of. And for him to just break that and take that from me when it took me my whole life, I can't just go replace it. I was just crushed. I was like, uh, everything is taken from me, everything. And I was just losing the will to live. I just didn't have any reason to get up. I just didn't care anymore. Everything was being taken from me in every way. And finally, he left, and I was nervous how I still am, how I don't know how I'm going to make the rent, honestly. Please like and subscribe my video. I am trying to build this as a source of income as well, but this is my ministry, so it's not. I don't do it for money. I do it for the Lord. But if I can have some income from it, that would be good because I'm struggling. Um, I did wind up. I had a good job. I wound up. I'm deaf. I'm wearing a hearing aid. Um, but I wound up actually getting fired because of my hearing, which is illegal. And my boss actually made fun of me. I have a lawsuit, so I'm going to be able to have a chunk of money and buy a house. So that was a blessing in disguise. So God really does take everything and use it for the good. And I'm someone who I didn't have a good life before all that with my husband. I grew up with drug addict parents, and I had parents that were not there and were neglectful, and so I never really had a good life. I never had a vacation. I've never been on vacation in my life. Day trips, that's it. But I never, you know what I mean. I didn't have. I never had a wedding. I never had a good marriage. I struggled to take care of my kids. Um, I can't say that there was ever one year of my life that was good. There were periods of time where there was some happiness and then it was taken away again. And I'm not complaining. I'm saying this because I if I can pick myself back up and I can say, I'm going to press on and I'm going to overcome and I'm going to serve the Lord, then I'm hoping that you hearing this story will also be encouraged and say, because I know that everybody has struggles. We all struggle. Everybody you meet has a story and has pain and has something that they, you know, rejection and pain, in their life. And, you know, even just recently, I had an older woman that moved in with me, and I was going to get paid to take care of her. And I thought, well, okay, finally, I'll have the settlement money and I'll have this income, and I could then just focus on ministry because, I'm working kind of from home. I'm taking care of her. But then she left. I won't get into that. But so that it just seems like everything I try, the rug gets pulled out from under me. But I am going to press on. I'm going to serve the Lord. And what's what I long for is just to be close to him. When I was 3, I got saved when I was 3. And my dad was a deacon in a Baptist church. He went back and forth between like church and drugs. So I had this couple periods, a couple years where we were involved in church and life was good. And then he would do drugs and life was bad. And I got to see this, and it, like I was saying, God uses everything for good. And I'm glad, even though those years were hard, I saw the difference firsthand of what life is like when you serve God and what life is, like when you don't. So I always wanted to serve God. And, you know, anytime that I know God called me to be an evangelist. And when I got married, I don't, I think that, I knew I wasn't supposed to marry my husband, and I did anyway. And I put men before God. And I'm so happy that my children are here. But I felt like I missed my calling, that I messed up. And the Lord has shown me that it doesn't even matter. I didn't, he now is the time he wants to use me. But even if it was true that I had, messed up my calling, God can always reinstate that calling at any point in your life. You could be 80 years old, and if you say to yourself, you're going to turn around and serve God, God will use you. Even if you're in a nursing home, God can use you to witness to the people that are around you, before they go to be with the Lord. um, you can always have that reinstated. And I remember, though, when I was 3, I would sit on this step, and it was always like my step with God. It was our step. And that's where I would sit and talk to God. And he would always meet me there. He was always faithful to meet me there. I never sat there to talk to him and he wasn't there. He would always be there. And any time that you sit to talk to God, he will be there. I mean, can you imagine so many, we don't really make time for God, but can you imagine if God didn't make time for us? What if, we sat down to talk to him and he wasn't there? And we had to, like, oh my gosh, I mean, that might even help people to serve him more, because, you know, oh my gosh, he's not there. That's such a, but if you don't experience what it's like to have God there, and how scary it is when he's not, when you sin, you don't understand that difference. But once you do understand that difference, you want his presence so badly. And if you ever sit down to talk to him and he's not there, it's very scary, but he's always faithful to be there. There was times in my life where I was sinning and he wasn't, and it scared me so much. And I never ever want to feel that way again. Um, but I remember times when God's presence was so strong, and I just wanted to get back to that so badly. And the thing about that is, it could take years to build that relationship, because it's a relationship, just like with anything, like a marriage or anything. But one thing can take it away. One sin, one bad decision, just like, say, a marriage. You have a good marriage. If you go and cheat on your spouse, just like that, it's gone. And it's not like you could say sorry and have that relationship back just overnight. It would take years and years and years to repair that, and build that trust and be that close again. And it's the same thing with God. And when you have to make that relationship a priority and say, I love you more than I love anything else, more than I want to be married, more than even my children, and more than I want family. And those things were always so important to me. But now I want God to know, no matter what, I want his presence more than anything. And so that's where I'm at. And I am in my office now, because I always wanted to have like a place to sit down and be able to do videos without having to, fix a corner in the room or something, and that's one of the things that held me back, and my son, and that abusive relationship. But he left, and God has provided for me and made a way for me to stay here and pay the rent somehow. um, and I'm trusting him that will continue. and now I have a bedroom, and my grandkids have a room, and now I have this extra room where I made into an office, and I could just sit down and do my ministry and focus on this and bringing God word to you. I know God called me to be an evangelist, and I know God has given me words to speak. So I'm going to be continuing with that. Um, and I'm not going to be afraid to talk about politics. I used to kind of just talk about Revelation, not really get into politics much, but I started Truth and Freedom Alliance with a friend I met, a pastor friend, and another friend that have become wonderful, wonderful brothers to me. People that have really stuck by me and shown themselves to be friends and brothers. And I'm proud that they're in my life, and I'm so grateful to them. We just miraculously found each other after Charlie Kirk died. We had the same vision. We started this Truth and Freedom Alliance, and we are going to be doing podcasts as well. I'll probably post them on here, like in a playlist or something, and as well as have like another channel. And we're going to do similar to what Charlie Kirk did: go to schools, go out into the community and talk, street witness. We want to have prayer marches, but the main goal is to unite the church and to ignite the church, unite and ignite. Um, I know that there's a lot of people out there who have a spark, but we need to fan that flame for Jesus, because we're all kind of wandering around, lost. Everyone I talk to that I find that's a conservative, um, they feel beaten down by the devil, just like I have been feeling, and they want to do something. They want to be a part of change and helping America to save America from destruction. And we see what's happening, and we see like this the Muslim infiltration. And instead of resenting them for being here, I say we go full force evangelism, and we bring them into the church. We tell them about Jesus. We pray for revival, because they may be coming here for nefarious reasons all over the Western world. They are infiltrating, and I believe it's for nefarious reasons. However, God God has a different plan. God brought them here to find him. They may think that they came here for their Muslim agenda, but God brought them here to find him and to save them from hell. And God died for them too. And I want us to reach out how we can reach them for Jesus and really bring the church together. We're so divided by so many things. Even just look at MAGA, what's happening recently, and just like what Candace Owens is doing, and Tucker Carlson, and I wanted to get into um, Israel a little bit tonight. I don't even know how long it's been. I think it's been a long talk, so maybe I'll save that for tomorrow. I'll go into Israel tomorrow, but we're divided. The church is divided, and I really have been praying and fasting, and I feel God's presence again. I feel that power. I feel that connection, um, and I don't feel afraid. I feel like it's about trust. Um, the opposite of fear is trusting God. Um, you can trust God, and that's really the answer to everything. Even people that struggle with homosexuality, it's because they're not trusting that what God has is better. No matter how they feel, no matter how you feel, it's we're here for Jesus, and God loves us. It's not like he makes rules to because he wants to lord over us and be like, no, I said this is the way it has to be. It's because he knows what's best, because he wants us to have the best life possible. And when we trust him, even though we feel something else, Oh, when he does, when it does come together, if you just trust him, it doesn't. You will have the best. He has the best interest for you at heart. He loves you, and if you just trust him, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to do things your way and figure it out. You don't have to trust in your own feelings. You could say, no matter how I feel, I'm going to just trust God. And when you sit in his presence, when you get to know him, just read his word and sit in his presence, there's nothing better. And it's so much more important than anything else, than love of any kind of human. Even though, of course, I want family, I want marriage, I want all of those things too. So I'm not saying that we should live without them, but God has a plan. And if we do things his way, the Bible says he will give all things to us. If we seek him first, all these things will be added. But you have to trust him. It's about learning to trust him and being obedient. And if you do that, just his presence alone is just worth everything. But you'll see when you trust that things happen according to your faith. And you see Jesus saying that to people when he healed them on earth. It will be done to you according to your faith. When the centurion came and said that my child is sick, he said, it will be done to you just, according to your faith. And whatever, I mean, there's nothing that's impossible for God. Nothing. And if you just keep saying, no matter how bleak something looks, I don't care if you are facing eviction and you don't have the money and you don't know where it's going to come from. If you just say, God, I trust you. I trust you. I know you have a plan. I know you love me. I trust you. You're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing and that you can do. And you repented of all your sins and you're trying to serve him, then you just put it in his hands and say, I trust you. I trust you. And then you just watch him open doors. There's been lots of miracles that I want to share with you. I've been talking a long time, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I am going to come back tomorrow. Hopefully, now that I have an office, I could just sit down and I could just turn this on. And so I'm hoping to make more videos and share with you what God has been doing in my life and the words that he has been giving me to share with you. And I can say that with confidence now because, I felt so I was like in prison and I was like lost and I felt, there was somebody putting me down all the time. God has delivered me and I'm free and I feel like I have a whole new start in my life and I'm going to use every ounce of my energy for the Lord. And I have words that he has given me to share with you. And I am going to be back. Please pray for me. That is the plan. I've said that before, but I have a whole different feeling now. Before it was like my own strength, but now I trust the Lord. If he opened these doors, he created this space for me now because he has a plan and I'm going to trust him. I'm just going to trust him. And so I hope that encourages you to trust him. Please leave some comments. Let me know if any of this helped you. Um, and I'm gonna share more tomorrow. I have some more. I have some more thoughts, testimony, and miracles, and things about Israel I want to say. But also, I want to continue with Revelation because I really feel like the Lord has opened up the book of Revelation to me. I know that he called me to teach end time prophecy. I've known that since I was 12. And I know that, you know, he, I know this is from God and I'm going to share that with you. And so I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Okay. God bless you and get your Bible out. Read your Bible. You will feel God. You will feel his presence. If you just are consistent and stay in him, all of a sudden you'll just be like, this this amazing love and presence. And if God is with you and you know that he sees you and you're trusting him, you could just walk around with peace. You could just walk around with peace because God is here and he sees me. So no matter what happens, it's going to be okay because God is here and he sees me. And God is with you and he sees you and you could trust him. So just exercise that faith and that trust and see what happens. Okay. I'm going to try to figure out how to stop this. I don't even know. I'm learning. I'm getting better. Let's see. End stream. Okay. God bless you. And I thought that was end. I don't think that I ended this. Oh, I don't see. I'm pressing end. There we go.